What can $1,000 buy you in 2012? According to the New York Observer, $1,000 can buy you 4,800 peeps. If you love breakfast, $1,000 can buy you 358 Egg McMuffins at McDonald's. And if you're a bookworm, $1,000 can buy you about 58 bestsellers. In 1964, Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman, the world-renowned entrepreneurs of Nike, had a different idea on how to spend their $1,000. Little did they know that their revolutionary idea and a little bit of money would forever change the face of athletic footwear, apparel, and equipment. The heroic and fascinating story of the Nike industry began with two men and one idea. Phil Knight was a former long-distance runner for the University of Oregon under head coach Bill Bowerman. Knight was sick of poorly designed shoes, and Bowerman thought they were too expensive. With running over 100 miles a week, on dirt trails, uneven surfaces, and occasional rock, distance runners had to constantly deal with stress fractures, shin splints, and sprained ankles. In 1964, this all changed. Upon attending Stanford University, Knight and I had an idea to build a business around American-designed, Japanese-made shoes. Together, Bowerman and Knight shook hands to form Blue Ribbon Sports. They pledged $500 each and placed their first order of 300 pairs of shoes. Unlike most industries, Blue Ribbon Sports saw an immense amount of success within their first year. According to NikeInc.com, within their first year, Blue Ribbon Sports sold 1,300 pairs of shoes and made nearly $8,000 in revenue. The business continued to grow as Knight went across the country to different track meets, selling shoes out of the back of his car. In 1965, Bowerman and Knight hired their first full-time employee, Jeff Johnson, who would later come up with the name Nike. 4 years later, the business had 20 employees and a handful of retail outlets. The face of Blue Ribbon Sports would quickly change as the company was recognized worldwide. It wasn't until the 1972 Olympic trials that the Blue Ribbon Sports introduced its Nike brand and the internationally known swoosh symbol. Heads began to turn when 4 of the top 7 finishers of the Olympic marathon wore Nike shoes. 2 years later, and after 10 years of effort, the Nike shoe had become America's best-selling training shoe. And by 1978, Blue Ribbon Sports changed its name to Nike. With a new name and a new logo, Nike needed to expand the business by endorsing an athlete. Steve Prefontaine, an Oregon native who never lost any race at his home track, was found by Bowerman and Knight. His exposure in magazines like Sports Illustrated did nothing but help the Nike business. The early 1980s was a time in which Nike saw an enormous jump in the industry. With the successful launch of Nike Air technology, becoming a publicly traded company, expanding its offerings to include apparel, and signing a deal with Michael Jordan for a new line of basketball shoes, Knight's and Bowerman's once $1,000 company reached the $1 billion mark in worldwide sales. Nike was also acknowledged as the technological leader in the athletic footwear industry. The late 1980s turned the page for Nike as Reebok won the aerobics market with a sleek, fashionable shoe. Nike's Air Max and cross-training business exploded in 1989. The footwear was the first to feature Nike airbags that were visible. Nike quickly regained its position as the industry leader, the first and only time a company in the athletic footwear and apparel industry to accomplish such a feat. Nike's competitive edge set record statistics in the 2000s to assure a minor setback would never happen again. According to Venture Navigator, Nike was named the #1 consumer goods company to work for in 2000. Nike had a worldwide revenues passing the $10 billion mark with 22,000 employees working in 120 different countries. The new millennium brings assurance and excitement to the Nike industry. By endorsing more athletes and becoming the official sponsor of the National Football League in 2012, Nike has a revenue target goal of $28 to $30 billion by 2015. Nike acquired another new face to the industry when signing a deal with one of the most famous athletes and cyclists in the world. Winning a record-breaking 6 Tour de France's, Lance Armstrong is considered one of the greatest cyclists and athletes of our time. While being diagnosed with cancer in 1996 and overcoming a 40% chance of survival, Armstrong was just 25 years old when he signed his deal with Nike. Instead of relinquishing his contract, Nike supported Armstrong to help launch the Lance Armstrong Foundation, also known as LAF. The mission of LAF was built around a quote by Lance: "Before cancer, I just lived." Now I Live Strong. A fundraising and awareness campaign called Live Strong was launched in 2004 by selling a bright yellow wristband stamped with the Live Strong motto. Nike took care of all distribution and production costs for the first 5 million wristbands. And according to Sports Marketing Quarterly, LAF received a total of $6 million because of Nike's involvement. And as of June 2005, 47 million wristbands were sold. Here's a video clip on Armstrong's mission of the Live Strong campaign.
Just want to let you know that after long talks with my kids, the rest of my family, a close group of friends, I have decided to return to professional cycling in 2009. 5 years, 5 years that I don't have to deal with it. You don't have to deal with it. None of us have to deal with it. My children don't have to deal with it. This must be a global health priority. We know that we cannot do this alone. I cannot guarantee an 8th Tour victory, but I can guarantee you that the Live Strong message will touch all aspects of our society, all comments of our society, and certainly touch on all the different diseases and facets of cancer that need the attention. It's not about me.
It's about my sister.
It's about my dog. It's about my son.
As you can see, Lance Armstrong, Nike, and LAF have affected so many lives in such a positive way. However, sponsoring athletes who are constantly in the public eye has many risks that can and have portrayed a negative image on Nike. For example, Kobe Bryant, Jason Giambi, and Tiger Woods have brought negative attention to the Nike-sponsored athletes. Bryant was accused of an adulterous affair, and Giambi was convicted of using steroids. In the minds of consumers and sports fans, Nike was now being associated with cheating, drug use, and infidelity. Making sponsorship highly visible can put a company in jeopardy and could cause the billion-dollar business to lose money. Besides having negative attention brought upon by athletes, Nike has also been accused of child labor and horrible working conditions. Nike's Converse shoe factory in Indonesia is one of the 1,000 overseas factories and is Nike's 3rd largest manufacturing base. With that being said, 2/3 of the 168 factories making Converse products fail to meet Nike's manufacturing standards. Workers have complained about being physically and mentally abused. After making a mistake while cutting rubber for soles, one woman said she was kicked by a supervisor, while others say they slapped and throw shoes at them. An article found in the Daily Mail reported 10,000 females work at the factory and make around 50 cents an hour. Nike has received criticism for this problem for over a decade and continues to try and improve the conditions. Despite the few negative issues that Nike has faced, the company has set an all-time high in income according to 2012 statistics. According to NikeInc.com, in 2012 they received $24.1 billion in income and a net income of $549 million. 2012 also increased $6.5 billion in revenue from the previous year. This would mark the largest revenue quarter in Nike Inc.'s history. Nike continues to succeed by constantly upgrading and improving equipment, apparel, footwear, and technology to better assist athletes across different nations. Our world revolves around a competitive society that is always reaching to be the best. Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman didn't settle for less, and instead built a billion-dollar company off of a revolutionary idea. Together they sought to make a little difference in the eyes of a few distance runners. The minuscule difference not only affected a few distance runners, but now has helped train and support some of the best athletes in the world. From selling shoes out of the back of his car to having thousands of factories around the world, Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman will go down in history as the two ingenious entrepreneurs of the Nike industry.